Hello everyone, welcome again to my channel. Thanks for the click. I hope you are doing well. So as you can see, we are still talking about writing paragraph. Okay, so in the previous episode, in the last lesson, we saw writing paragraph, and particularly we focused on writing the topic sentence. Okay, so these are two examples of topic sentences we saw before, and we said that a topic sentence is two components, two very essential parts. Number one is the topic, and number two is very simply the topic, and number two is the link, to link the topic sentence with the supporting sentences. Okay, this is what a topic sentence should contain, right? For example, if you go back again to this, so social media has many advantages. So the topic is social media is the topic, and the link is the advantages. Okay, is the advantages. So this is the topic. Okay, this is the topic, and this is the link, which means that in these supporting sentences, we are going to talk about the advantages of social media. Okay, advantages of social media. Right. Now, again, in the second one, I prepare for exams in different ways. The topic is preparing for exams. This is the topic, and the link is different ways. So, in other words, we are going to talk here in the supporting sentences, we are going to talk about what? The different ways I prepare for my exams or for exams. All right. Now, in this episode, we are going to focus on the supporting sentences, to write supporting sentences in a paragraph. Now, the appropriate technique to use to write supporting sentences, good supporting sentences, is to go through a very essential step in writing, which is the brainstorming. Now, the supporting sentences, as I said, will be related to the link, or the link in the topic sentences. For example, here, the supporting sentences you are going to have in number one is the advantages of social media. In number two, the different ways. So you have to give examples of ways you prepare for exams, right? Now, the appropriate way to brainstorm for supporting sentences is to go through three stages or three steps. This is number one, this is number two, and number three. So we are going to take only some very simple examples. Now, the first step, we can call it word. Okay, and the second step, we can call it simple sentences. Okay, and step number three, we can call it development. To develop, very simply, to develop. Okay, to develop what? To develop the simple sentences, because normally you are not going to use one simple sentence for each supporting sentences, but it's better to develop those simple sentences. Okay, we are going to see how to develop these simple sentences. So we are going to take two examples, one for social media and number two for preparing for exams. Now, can you guess of one word that has to do with advantages of social media? One word, in a word. Okay, so very simply you can say, for instance, communication. So communication is what? Is an advantage of social media. Communication. So can we write here communication? No. So we need a simple sentences. So we need sentences to use them here. Okay. Now, the simple sentence out of communication, what can we say? Very simply, we can say, for example, I communicate with friends or relatives. Okay, I communicate with friends and relatives, or I can communicate with friends and relatives. So this is a simple sentence out of communication. Let's go to here. Now we can develop, we can explain and develop this simple sentence. For example, we can say, I can, make, for instance, voice or video calls, for instance. This is a way of communication. We can say, I can send, for example, messages or text messages, for example. I can share, for example, photos with friends, etc. So as you can see, one simple sentence can be developed into three sentences. So communicate with friends in different ways. I can make voice or video calls. I can send text messages to friends, for example, or I can share photos with them, for example, with friends, etc. So this is development. So we develop this simple sentence, okay? Now let's go to so this is one example of advantage. So you can think of other advantages, two other advantages, and you do the same simple sentence and you develop this simple sentence, okay? Now let's go to number 2. I prepare for exams in different ways. So can you guess one way to prepare for your exams, but in a word, okay? In a word. Okay, so for example, we can say revision. Okay, revision. So this is a way, revision is a way, but we are not going to write revision here. No, we need what? Sentences. Okay, we need sentences, right? Now, for instance, in simple sentence, we can say, I revise my lessons. Okay, I revise my lessons. Now, because revision has to do with lessons, right? So I revise my lessons. This is very simply a simple sentence, but we are not going to use it in the supporting sentences alone. So it's better to develop it, to explain this simple sentence, etc. Now, can you guess some sentences related to this simple sentence, this simple sentence, to develop this simple sentence? So very simply, we can say, I look at my, okay, we can say, I look at lessons, all right, lessons in my notebook, okay, or notebooks, for instance. This is number 1. So I look at my lessons or lessons in my notebook, for example. This is number 1. You can also say, for instance, I summarize. So for instance, you look at lessons, you read, you revise, and you summarize. So for example, you can say, I summarize my lessons. For example, I summarize them, take the most important point, for example, in my lessons. We can also say, I watch videos to understand better. To understand better. So as you can see, these are what? These are other sentences, extra sentences. Why? To explain what? This simple sentence. Okay, this simple sentence. So I look at lessons in my notebook. Okay, I summarize the lessons, take the most important point. I watch videos to understand better if I don't understand a certain lesson, for example. Okay, so this is a way to explain or to develop these simple sentences. So this is only one way. So you can think of the way number 2 and you do the same. You can think of way number 3 and you do the same, etc. So this needs what? This something that you need to practice, okay? To practice, okay? Now, to go from these sentences, these two simple sentences, into these ones, we need what? We need some, what we call linkers, okay? We need some linkers, or we can also call them transitions. But these linkers or transitions have to do with explaining, because here these ones are to develop or explain these sentences. So we need linkers to explain. For example, you can say, in other words, that is to say, that is, etc. So these are, as you can see, these are linkers or transitions to use to explain these simple sentences with these ones, okay? For example, you can say, I revise my lessons. In other words, I look at lessons in my notebook. Also, I summarize and I watch videos to understand better. So this is a transition from simple sentence to these supporting, we can call them explaining sentences, okay? We can also say, I communicate with friends. That is to say, I can make voice or video call, I can send messages, and I can share photos or maybe news with friends, okay? So these are expressions to link or to move from these simple sentences into the explanation, okay? All right, now this, as I said before, don't forget to practice again and again and again. Think of different other advantages in words and you go. Think of other different ways to prepare for exams and you go this way. See you in another episode with another lesson. Have a good time and goodbye. Don't forget, if you have any question or suggestion, don't hesitate to let me know. See you then, have a good time and goodbye.